Bracken here. So I'll give a quick run through this just as kind of an introduction. Okay. So what is impact? Okay, so talk about impact in different contexts there. So one definition is direct and indirect influence of research or its effect on an individual, a community, development of policy, or creation of new product, service, or technology. So it's quite wide, the definition of impact. So look at different types of impacts. So you can have health impacts, societal impacts, those Neve talked about. I'm just going to look at kind of more traditional, I suppose, academic impacts, just to give you a flavour about that. It might suit everyone's type of research, but it's something to bear in mind. Okay. So for assessing the type of academic research impact, there's a few kind of traditional areas. So peer review would be one method, where it's a process of research assessments based on the use of expert deliberation and judgment. I'm going to talk mainly about the next two, bibliometrics and altmetrics. So bibliometrics is looking at quantitative measures used to assess research impact. So it's looking at the number of citations, the number of times an output, publication output, like a journal article or a book, is cited, referenced by other similar sort of outputs. And we'll look at some of the different metrics that you can get from that. And then alt metrics are alternative metrics, or article level, or different types of metrics. And these are kind of a new thing that's come about the last 5 or 6 years. So there's lots of different metrics, and one thing that's a metric that's become popular in the last 10 years or so is the H-index. I just want to, so you're aware of this if you hear it. So basically the H-index is, so best thing is an example. If you have a H-index of 10, it means that all the papers or articles or books written by the author, 10 of them have been cited at least 10 times each. Okay, so, but it's really important that you only compare people within the same discipline. Okay, so traditionally citations are lower in arts and humanities than they would be in some of the science or medical disciplines, and that's based on the number of outputs being journals or books, different things like that. And it's important that you only compare people at the same stage of the career. So you don't, there's no point comparing the H-index of a professor with 30 years research experience to a postdoc with 1 or 2, because they should have a higher H-index based on the amount of time the publications have had time to get citations. So basically what you do is you just list all your publications in order of citations, and then in this example this is a H-index of 3, because there's 3 publications with at least 3 citations each. Okay, so it's a simple enough metric. Once you can just get your head around that. Okay, so if this is a H-index of 4, it needs 3 more citations for this publication, and then it's 4 publications with at least 4 citations each. Okay, so some of the tools then to find citations and calculate the H-index. There's 3 main tools: Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar. Web of Science has arts and humanities publications, but very much focused on science and social sciences. Scopus and Google Scholar are a lot better, and they're better suited, probably more arts and humanities research indexed in those databases, so you have a better chance of getting citations and publications recognised. But it's still not perfect, especially Scopus. Scopus and Web of Science you have to pay for through subscriptions, and then Google Scholar is free. Google Scholar would index more books and theses and other reports and other outputs as well. Okay. So just to show you, in Scopus you can do an author search if you want to find someone's H-index for the stuff that's indexed there, and you can do a search, and then you can just about see it here. So in red there you can see this author, Lawrence Kramer, has a H-index of 9. Okay, so he has 9 publications that have at least 9 citations each. Google Scholar, then, as I said, is more books, technical reports, and other things. Conference papers are indexed, okay? And to find the H index in this, then you can create a Google Scholar report, researcher profile, and you can see your H index. You can calculate your H index. One thing I'll talk about, and what Lee mentioned, is the UL institutional repository. So you can put your thesis, if you're doing thesis, different other research outputs can go into the institutional repository, and then all of them are indexed by Google Scholar. So you can have kind of, more non-traditional things like if they have a research output, videos and other multimedia can go into the institutional repository, which means it can be indexed by Google Scholar and start getting citations. So something else to think about. Or, if it's a project report, different things like that can go into, it doesn't have to be just a straight journal article, okay? But once they're in there, they'll want to be indexed by Google Scholar, and you can add it then to your profile. Okay, so that's more traditional bibliometrics. Then altmetrics then are these alternative metrics. And these are looking at attention, research output or resource or whatever it is generates on the social web or on online newspapers and things like that. And this can be applied to journal articles, books or book chapters, videos, okay? So the idea is that it shows the influence engagement of work on the social web, and it provides a more comprehensive picture of scholarly activity and the use and impact of a researcher's work, okay? So it's different, a lot different than citations. So some of the potential in altmetrics, and it's still in the early days, they're only going 6-7 years. So the idea is that it provides real-time indicators of impact. So like the downloads that Lee showed from ULIR, you can start getting those downloads straight away, whereas it might take years before you get a citation or someone else references your work. You can get practitioner impact. So if you're doing research in music, you can get musicians might start talking about your work online, but they're actually not going to publish any academic paper inside your work. Or other types of performers. And it also shows some evidence of public engagement. If newspapers can pick it up, if you put it out onto on Twitter or whatever. So these are sort of some of the things that altmetrics can be useful for. So there's a number of different altmetric platforms out there. Probably the main one is altmetric.com, and they have a tool that we have access to called Altmetric Explorer for institutions. And here you can have a look and see what attention items are getting. And the way all these systems work is that your research output needs to have a unique identifier. So there's a thing for most journal articles and other online things called a DOI, Digital Object Identifier. So that's what it uses. But it also uses a unique identifier that we give an item in the UL institutional repository. Okay, so that's called a handle. But anyways, as long as you have a unique URL, it can track stuff. Okay. So say for example, we'll just look at this item here. Okay, so you can see for this item here, it shows that it was picked up by, on the left hand side, you can see there it was picked up by one news outlet, 26 tweeters and 2 Facebook pages. So it only looks at open, so it only picks up items that are public. So Facebook pages Facebook pages are open to the public. And then there's another thing. Then it shows that this item was picked up by Mendeley is an online reference management software. So 68 people have saved that to their Mendeley library. You can click in and into the news item and actually click then into the news article and see what it actually says. And same with the tweets. So you can see things that are only publicly available on the web. Okay, so it doesn't. So the good advantage is that you can see exactly what people are saying about the work. Okay, so it's something else that you can look at. Okay, it's a bit more. It's not as it's not the same as the citations, bibliometrics. So there's other places where you can find metrics. Okay, so one thing to do then is to use that permanent identifier, as I said, the DOI, if it is attached to the journal article or other item, or use the handle, which is the URL for your item in the institutional repository. Okay, and we've added a plug-in to things on the institutional repository, so if your item gets any attention, the little badge like that will appear on the item. Okay, so that's another way of keeping track. So other things you can use to showcase your research impact is, as I said, downloads and views of publications from institutional repositories, download statistics. Okay, if you do a presentation, you put it up onto a platform called SlideShare, which shows how many times people viewed it. Your YouTube videos, amount of times are viewed. Then reviews of books or book chapters, book sales. If you produce a book, there's a website called WorldCat, which shows you how many libraries worldwide have that in their collection. Okay, so these are things to show that your work is having an impact. Or if even if it's not a book, the full book that you've written, if it's a book chapter, you can see how many libraries hold the full book itself. Okay, so just some ways that you could, in the traditional sense, maximize your research impact is, if you can possible, you can publish in some of the journals that have higher impact in your field, and you can find these in journals that are published in Web of Science or Scopus, and they all have a different type of metric. Okay, and these can be used as a guide. The main thing though when choosing any journal is to make sure that the journal is interested in what you want to publish. Okay. So for Scopus, which is better than Web of Science, as I mentioned before, for arts and humanities, there's a metric called the Chimago Journal Rank, or SJR. I'm not going to bother going into how it's calculated, but basically the higher the number, the better in your particular field. So with the Chimago JR website, what you can do is you can look by different subject categories, and there's a subject category for visual arts and performing arts. There's also one for music, and you can see what journals are there. So for visual arts and performing arts, there's 400 journals included in the database, and you can see this is the one that rates the highest, and it lists them all, okay, in order. What it does then is basically this Q1 is quartile 1. Okay, so basically what it does is when you rank all the journals, and this is a quite nice, easy calculation for me to work off of. There's 400 journals. The top 100 are in quartile 1. The second 100 in quartile 2, down to from number 301 to 400 in quartile 4. Okay. Normally when I'm doing this number is a bit more awkward, and I can't divide by 4 very easily. All right, so that's nice and handy. Okay, but it's worth having a look at that, and maybe if you are looking to publish in a journal, you can try and pick one that's on these lists if it matches your subject area. Okay, it's just something to bear in mind. There's also the ERIH Plus, the European Reference Index for the Humanities and Social Sciences, and this includes journals in those disciplines published in Europe that meet certain benchmark standards. Okay, so journals don't get ranked in any particular order. It's just either if it meets the criteria, it's included. Okay, so it's things like peer reviewed, and the editorial board is from a variety of different institutions. Okay, so that's the web address. I presume maybe you'll forward on these slides afterwards, won't you? So you can do it by different disciplines, and it just tells you some basic information about the journal. Okay, so it's published in multiple different languages as well. Okay, so it's good for other languages or smaller journals that aren't likely to have to meet all the criteria for inclusion in Web of Science or Scopus. Okay, so these are another thing to look at when you're picking a journal. Okay, And if the journal that you want to publish in, or you have published in before, isn't included in this list, it's worth asking the editor to see will it be included. Okay? Other things that help boost your impact is collaborating with other researchers. Okay? Because co-authored papers, especially with international authors, are cited more frequently across all disciplines. And sometimes collaboration, in some of your disciplines, maybe collaboration isn't the norm, but it's just something to bear in mind as well. It's also good then to ensure that your research is easily identifiable by making sure you use the same version of your name throughout your career. Okay, so use it consistently. If you start using the middle initial, keep using the middle initial. Always try and use the same surname. Okay. One thing you can do then is you can also create these different researcher profiles. So there's two ones that one I mentioned already. The Google Scholar profile is worth creating to showcase your research, and also ORCID. So ORCID is the idea is that you can put all of your works together into this. Okay, and you can put information about your education, employment, biography, but what is really useful for putting all your works together. So they particularly talk about works of other publications because they include performances, videos, different things like that. Okay, and there's different categories, and you can put them in, and it ensures that your work is discoverable. It eliminates name ambiguity because you end up given a 16-digit number, and it works with different other systems as well. So it's useful to make sure that everyone knows this is from you. It's quite easy to set up, and if you're adding any of your publications or works, make sure you include, if there is a DOI or a handle, any unique identifier, make sure you include that as well. Okay, for any works that have that. Okay, and then another thing then to increase visibility of your research outputs is to, one thing is search engine optimization. So for any text-based output is to carefully think about the article title and keywords before you submit it, and then to make your work available on open access as well. Okay, with search engine optimizations, basically, if you think of different keywords and put some of those keywords into your abstract and your title, it means that if someone does a search for them on Google or any of the different databases, then that your work is going to be indexed in, then it's a better chance of it going higher up to the top of the search results. Okay, because most people, if they do search, they'll only look for things in the first page, maybe the second page if you're lucky. Okay, so you want to try and bring it up to as high up as you can. So open access then is granting free access to your publications or your data. Okay, so there's different types of open access. So green open access is immediate or delayed open access that's provided through self-archiving. Basically that means is putting stuff into the UL institutional repository is classified as self-archiving, and that's free for the reader to view the stuff and also free for you to put it in. Okay, gold open access then is if it's immediate open access and provided by the publisher. Okay, so in one of their journals, and with that you generally have to pay. Okay, and it could be a dear enough fee. All right, and this is the institutional repository, and Niamh showed a screenshot of the stats that you get from that, which is good to show you what country you've published in, the amount of times you've downloaded, countries people have read it from, and where, and how many times you've downloaded. So the benefits of open access: no subscriptions necessary for the reader. Okay, greater visibility of your research, so it's indexed by Google Scholar and Google and all the big search engines. It can satisfy funding agency requirements, so some of the fundings, Irish Research Council and some others, require that outputs are made open access, especially peer-reviewed publications. And it also then, having your work open access increases the exposure it gets and increases the citation rate. Okay, so you get more citations if your publications are open access. Finally then, Communicating and promoting your research outputs is very important, so attending and presenting at conferences and seminars, using social media, Twitter and blogs to publicise your research, engage with your audience. So going back to altmetrics then, when you are talking about your research online, make sure you include either the handle from the institutional repository, that URL link, or else include the DOI, okay? So include those links so that they can be picked up and tracked, so that you can show how it's having an impact. And then you have your profiles on some of the academic social networking sites. So I don't know if people have seen academia.edu or ResearchGate. These are places where you can showcase your work amongst your peers. Okay, so that was just a quick run through, and so thanks for listening. There's more information if you want on this page, or you can contact myself. Okay, so thanks very much.
So Fintan, even though we're running slightly behind time, it's very kindly said he will take questions if people have them. It's a huge area of impact metrics, bibliometrics. It's super sticky for arts and humanities researchers, but thank you very much for translating some of that across for us in particular, and focusing on the ones that are going to be most appropriate for us. But do people have any questions for Fintan? Fiona, if you can.
It's a very quick question. I don't know if I need to. No, I was just wondering, because there's a huge amount of different profiles and things. Is it a case of saturation, or is it like focus on the UL repository and put everything in one place, or just put everything everywhere?
Well, the UL repository will be, I think, the best place to put things, because then it's totally open access. The problem with putting stuff into something like ResearchGate or academia.edu is that they're, private companies. You don't know how long you want to last, or, what their strategy is, who's going to buy them, etc. So you don't know how open it's going to be. Plus, putting it into the institutional repository means that we check copyright to make sure you're not, breaking any copyright. So you can rest assured with that. And it also then is going to be indexed by Google Scholar, so that you can build your profile there. And the profile is quite easy. It takes a couple of minutes to start your profile in Google Scholar, and then it adds your publications automatically after that. Once it knows enough about you, want to have a couple of publications, so it knows, if you're publishing, say, music and that's your name, then it'll add it on automatically. So it keeps itself up to date, which is useful, so you've not too much work. And ORCID is going to be useful as well, so you can, that identifier can match then to what you have. So they're the two ones to focus on for me.
I know two women called Rachel and Moss who both work in medieval architecture history, and the ORCID is really important for them because it's just important.
And it depends as well if anyone here is kind of from a Spanish Latin background. So if you have two different surnames, maternal and the paternal ones, and people end up using different ones in different publications, and then that ends up that someone's trying to find out something about you, and ends up it's quite awkward to figure out if it's the same person or not.
And I'll talk loudly. If somebody moves then from UL to another institution, does their profile move with them, or how does that
work? Well, what happens is the ORCID is used by lots of publishers, and it's kind of, it's not stuck to, it doesn't stay in one place. So ORCID's very good because it moves with you. Okay.
But the university repository?
The university repository, your publications will stay there, but they're still going to be available online to everyone in the web. So we don't take down, that person's going to be taken down, because once research was produced while you're in UL, then it stays there. So that's still available because it's open access to everyone. Then what you do is, when you move to your next institution, nearly every institution now has an institutional repository, pretty much, so you just start putting your work into there, and then it'll all be gathered together in your profile.
And is that institutional repository then available to alumni, or does the access finish with the student graduating?
Well, as long as the research, yeah. So like it's, what do you mean the access now? So like if you want to put in research after you've finished here.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you've graduated, but you might still have research outputs that are being generated by the research you've conducted as a PhD student.
Yeah. I think once they're associated with the work that you did when you were here,
Right.
then we'll take them. Now, if you end up doing research in another, for another institution or totally independent, then yeah, look, we can talk to us if you know where else to put it. But we're not that. But like if it wasn't affiliated, if you did independent research and you wanted to use it, look, we can talk about it. But generally, like if the work is done, like I had a paper and I added it to the UCD Institutional Repository because I'd done, a year after I left because the work was done when I was there. So it was appropriate to go into that repository.
Any other questions? I think it's a lot to take in, but I suppose it's a really important part of the day in terms of all the things we've been talking about, creating the research, and then it's about, I suppose, making sure that that research is working for you, because this is all about making your research work for you, isn't it? Like making sure that you can capture that impact, so that you can communicate that impact when it's job applications, whether it's promotion applications, all of these different kinds of things, whether it's grant funding applications, and things like that. So if anyone has any questions about the exhibition's presentation, which was very quick, I'm more than happy to take them now or outside if you want to head off.
Just add one thing, sorry, just this is a kind of an advertisement thing, is that the library today changed with a new website and a new catalogue kind of discovery service, okay, so just, you'll notice some changes, just so hopefully it's going to be a lot easier to navigate, okay. That's the hope, anyway. We'll find out when people start using it.
Thank you so much for coming today. I hope you got some value from the day. I hope it helps to support your own research, dissemination, publication, whether you're writing books or articles, whether you're creating dance films, or whether you're making exhibitions or CDs or performances, or all of those. Make sure you're capturing impact and communicating impact and making it work for you as well. So thank you very much, Fintan, and to all of our speakers, and to all of you for